Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, good anything, wherever you are in the world. Once again, it is time for Fridays Live. And we know it's that great part of the week that we all look forward to. And of course, as the nights draw in and the winter gets colder, what better place to warm yourself up and enjoy yourself than sitting with all of us here enjoying family history. We have Ellie in the comments, who is going to be shepherding today's ribaldry. And we're going to be telling you all about this week's new releases, as we are the only website that releases new family history records every single week. And then we'll be talking about the question of the week, and we'll have some other great things to chat about. This is your session. It always goes in a million different directions, thanks to you, because you are the people that run it more than I. And so if there are any things you want to talk about and any questions, any thoughts, then drop them in the comments, say hello, tell your friends, everything. We're here for a whole hour. If you do have friends that might enjoy it, why not let them know? Tell them about it. Come and join everything. It's a really great session that we all like to share in. So while everyone's filtering in, I can see a lot of hellos from different parts of the world. That's great. See many people. It's exciting to see you all again in this now. It's getting dark in Edinburgh. It's a strange kind of wonderful blue colour outside, which comes with the sunset. So that's great. The question of the week, Gillian, is what have you achieved this year in terms of family history, and what have you perhaps missed out on? What did you hope to achieve, and what have you got left to achieve? So it's a sort of a nice looking back over the year, and we're just asking, what have you done this year? What things in terms of family history? What's moved you forward? What brick walls have you broken? What new record sets have you enjoyed? How have you moved a little bit further with your family history? So quite a great one to bring ourselves together as we get closer and closer towards that end of the year. So let's take a look. First of all, of course, the bit that you know and love and get really excited by is the new records. How can we ever not enjoy new records? So the new records this week come from a range of different places. I'm going to start with the newspapers. 13 titles updated, 5 brand new ones. One of the new ones is a great one called India. And it's a great one for those of you with British and India ancestors and relatives. So the new titles are the Bromley and West Kent Mercury from 1919 to 1950. India, 1890 to 1921. The Sheffield Public Advertiser from 1760 to 1793, a nice early one there. The South London Mail, 1888 to 1906. The Swanage Times and Directory, 1919 to 1936. Those are brand new titles that you have not seen before anywhere, and they're going to be really helpful, hopefully, for you as you conduct your family history research. And don't forget, as we've said before, stories are syndicated. If you have ancestors or relatives from places further afield from here, don't worry, take a look inside, and you might still find details of your ancestors being mentioned in the stories and the things that might help you. Definitely sound off in the comments as well if you have any great connections to these locations, things you might be excited to look up for. That would be great. And then, of course, now we have our updated titles. We have the Barrow Herald and Furnace Advertiser, 1875 and 1891. The Cambria Daily Leader, 1897 and 1911. The Glasgow Courier, 1851 and 1856. The Lancashire Evening Post, 1911 to 1915. The Lancaster Standard and County Advertiser, 1897. A really big, long spread of this one. The Liverpool Journal of Commerce, 1861 to 1905. The Macclesfield Courier and Herald, Congleton Gazette, Stockport Express, and Cheshire General Advertiser. That probably takes up more in ink printing the title than it does for the rest of the newspaper. 1844 to 1891. The Newark Advertiser, not New York, Newark, 1879 to 1968. The Northern Weekly Gazette, 1876 to 1913. The Porthcawl Guardian, which hopefully I pronounced correctly, 1958. The Swansea and Glamorgan Herald, 1869. The West Ham and South Essex Mail, 1928. And the Weymouth Telegram, 1874 to 1881. What a selection. That's a good one. And there are plenty of really exciting other papers on the way as well. And I see a few people talking about enjoying the Lancashire Evening Post. Janet's looking forward to the Lancashire Evening Post. Andrew as well. So the Lancashire Evening Post has some things for him. So I'm looking forward to find out what you might find. And there's a few other great things that might come in the future as well. So don't give up hope. There's plenty more records when it comes to newspapers. But now here come our records as well. We don't just give you newspapers, we give you records too. The first collection is a lovely one. I transcribed it myself. It's a really great one with images. It's the London Synagogue seat holders of 1904. This is a collection of all of those who are seat holders and office holders around all the synagogues of London for 1904. So it's not just one, it's many. And this is the early 20th century. So think there are going to be some people here that are going to be involved in the First World War. You might find them in service records. You'll find them in electoral registers as we get later on. There's going to be many, many people in here. It's going to be really interesting to use this to maybe put aside censuses and see a little bit more. All of these records are really good to search. You can search by name, but then when you look at the image, you'll see an address, so you'll know which person is yours. You'll be able to say straight away if that's your person or not. Also, of course, people may be related to multiple synagogues. So take a look and check the address to be certain which person you're looking at. So hopefully that will help. We've got some lovely new Jewish records, and it's a great niche to start researching and digging further into. So hopefully that will help some of you. Then, of course, we have a little bit more. We have the Far East Directories and Chronicles, Asia Far East Directories and Chronicles, 1833 to 1941. They don't cover, when we say Asia, they don't cover India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, etc. They cover the Far East, so China, Hong Kong, Japan, Korea, the Philippines, Indochina, Malaysia, Siam, Borneo, and the Dutch East Indies. And these places obviously have different names now. So places like Burma, Myanmar, different things. So think about that, and you might need to get yourself an atlas and a bit of a geography hunt to find out what your place that you're looking for might be called then and now. It may have even changed name while you're looking through these books, but this documents Westerners who work and live in the Far East. So this doesn't just cover British people. It's got the Irish, it's got Australians, it's got French, German, Italians, it's got Swedes, it's got New Zealanders, it's got Americans, Canadians, anyone you can think of, Westerners in the Far East. They're there, they're working, they're living. The details are included. So a really great resource for those of us who have traveled further away. And look at that, a great one from Chris already. The new directories covering the Far East. She found her Shelfords in Singapore in them. That is great. I love to see successes on there, and it's a fantastic one. These records, it's worth mentioning, are not name searchable in the same way that other records are, because they've not been indexed by name yet. So if you want to find them, be a little broader when you're looking for things, because what it will do is it will look for those words on the page. We use something called OCR, like newspapers, optical character recognition. So you have to be a bit broader with your search. We're getting better at adding in lots of name searchable records, but when you look at that number of records on the all record sets, what you see is the number of pages, not the number of people. So there are millions of people in here, not just about 80,000 pages. So it's really worth taking a dig if you think you have any relatives that may have traveled further east. And of course, many people will have moved between here and other places. So it's a great springboard for those who did later on go to Australia or who were in India and then moved here. There's many people who were working in different colonial aspects, and you might find them in this collection. So a really great collection to help broaden your global family tree. So that is a big collection of records to look at every week, something new and exciting. I wish I could tell you about some other great things coming, but not yet. And of course, there's one very great thing coming very soon, which we all remember very well, the 1921 census. And so that's something that we can all get very, very excited for, and not long to wait. I think the more I look at that calendar, the more nervous I become. And I'm sure you've all written out your lists of all the people that you're looking to find in the 1921 census and all the exciting things that you are going to be looking for. So those are records. Oh, look at that. Excellent. We've already got another breakthrough. Andrew said, yeah, Lancashire Evening Post has a report of a cousin's debut for Preston North End. Look at that. Fantastic. That is great. I love success. I love seeing everyone else do great things. So the more you can come here and tell us about that, then the happier I can get. And I know that everyone else likes to see other people succeeding as well. It gives us a little bit of hope when we have our own brick walls that we need to fix through. So now let's move on to the question of the week. So the question of the week, as we said, what family history breakthroughs have you achieved this year? What are you still hoping to complete before the year is out? So I can see everyone's answers coming through. And I see a nice comment here from Penny from Oxford. The upside of the last 21 months has been the amount of online webinars from FMP, Society of Genealogists, the Federation of Family History Societies, and many other local family history societies. We have not stopped, and I don't think we'll ever stop. I think this is one of those things that will stay with us long after the pandemic is just a memory and is on someone's family tree. I think you are stuck with us, for better or worse. You will have Ellie, you'll have myself, you'll have Jen, you'll have Paul, you'll have everyone else that we have as guests. All of these people helping you get further with your family tree and just helping to have a chat and just enjoying family history as much as you do. We are as passionate about family history as you are, and we will always enjoy talking about it. Sometimes you can't shut us up. That is how it all works. Ellie and I are just talking recently. Maybe you can have a say. You remember last year we did a bit of a Christmas quiz on Findmypast Live, and we're just talking about maybe we should do another one. Just once a year, we can have a nice little quiz session and see how people get on. So if you'd like that, do let us know, and we'll try and get that scheduled in rapidly and very quickly. Think of all the great questions that we can think of, but definitely. Oh, look, there's another success. Hey, Sylvia Valentine has just found the first record of W.H. Pitts in Japan. He's a distant half-uncle of her husband's cousin, and this will be going into the presentation she's preparing called The Absolute Pitts for Devon Family History Society. This is what's so exciting. We're live finding things. I mean, also, I'm a little bit upset, Sylvia, that you're not giving us your full attention, but I think we'll live with it. I think that'll be okay because you've given much more value by doing this. So happy times. It's great. But these records, as I said, they might not seem like they're of use to you. You might say, well, I don't have any relatives in the Far East, but definitely take a look because you never know where people might get to. So you really should be checking everywhere, and it's a great one. I've got a quick question here from Christine. When did the census start? I can't find my fathers and mothers. Can you please help me? So the census records that we are looking at, if you're thinking of England and Wales, all of Britain really, but 1801, although not many survive for those early years. So 1841 is the first census that you will be able to get hold of. I'm assuming you're not looking for your mother and father in the 1841 census. The 1921 census is the latest one that we'll be able to get hold of, and that will be very, very shortly. And then every 10 years they are taken, but there is no 1931 census because of a fire in World War II, and there's no 1941 census because there was World War II. So we have got a long time to wait before the next census. So this is kind of the last census that we're really going to get our hands on for family history in our lifetimes, I think. And that makes it special, and that makes it really, really important to find some things. And I've been thinking about this a lot, and I was speaking to someone else about this and thinking that maybe there's a presentation in this that I think we're witnessing the death of genealogy. And I say that in a very happy way, because with death comes rebirth and all kinds of things. And I think genealogy has died and reborn a number of times in its lifetime. So don't panic or fear. I think old genealogy used to be those very, very stuffy aristocrats who used to wear their cravats, and they used to wander around, and they would do this as a rich man's hobby, and they would make those books, and they would create things like the peerage, and it was something that only really aristocrats got to do. And that was one form of genealogy, and that died out, and it became something new. And almost like a what do you call them? The little things that go into the chrysalis and turn into a butterfly. Caterpillars. There we go. Okay, I'm well on for this. So, ask me about censuses. I know everything, but those little things that fly around, insects, yes, maybe not so much. But so that happened. We had a beautiful butterfly, and family history became more democratic. More people could use it. More people could go to archives and libraries, and that became almost like the second age of genealogy. And then that sort of has started to taper away a little bit, but it's not gone away, and it's still an important part. And a third age of genealogy is coming, of being able to search for records online, being able to use the internet and computers to look at millions and billions of records all at once, being able to digitize things like newspapers and search through so many pages at once at fingertips. When I look at what my great uncle was struggling with, when I see his work from long ago, I think he died in 1979 or so, and I got to see all of his work, and I saw exactly where he got stuck. And he got stuck because he copied these things down, and I know exactly which records he used to get to those conclusions. But I could go further because I could lay them all out and I could search for more. And he would never have once thought to look in passenger lists to prove that this person had gone to Canada or anything like that, because if he hadn't got the hearsay, he would never know. And looking through 60 million records to try and find on a hunch was just impossible back then. But now we can do it. So we have this hybrid world of digital searching, bidding an archive, mixing it together to get to what we need to do. And we use these core records, BMDs and Census and things like that. But in an era with privacy, in England and Wales, the GRO and our records, they are stopping as we get to sort of 2007, and the published ones, we're not finding them on websites. Then we've got other things that we've got to look at, different things that are coming in. No more censuses. We've got things like Facebook and Twitter and everything else that will give us detail that maybe we can use instead. We're moving to a new era of having to use alternatives to the core records that we're so used to using to tell stories about who our family were. And that new age, the fourth age of genealogy, is beginning. And I think that's something that could be really interesting to look into and look at some of those alternative records. And that could be really exciting, I think, because there are so many alternative records that we can use that you might not even be able to think about. I was talking to someone only the other day about how I just found a relative on LinkedIn. And it was just one of those things where I just hadn't thought, and I couldn't find them on any social network. And it turns out that's where they were. And then I could make contact with that living relative. So there are lots of different things that we could do when it comes to living relatives or more modern records. And as we won't have access to another census for our generation, there's still plenty we can do. And there are plenty of records that we can start looking at and digging through. There are many census substitutes. There are many different things that mean that we certainly have more to do. People will say, oh, it's all online now. It's not. There's other things. There are other places and other things that we can put alongside. All of those matter. I think that's going to be a really, really interesting one. So let's see what we're doing here. So, I see there a great one from Ellie herself. She solved a huge research mystery today using passenger lists. She'll be writing the whole project up and sharing it in the new year. Looking forward to that. So really, really exciting and really, really good to see that. Linda's saying I would rock a cravat. I have a number already, and maybe at some point I might have to pop one on, maybe for the quiz. But definitely, and Matthew as well, making a good point about things like heart tax, census substitutes. These are the things that I was thinking of going through. I think that is an interesting presentation. I'm really going to have to write up and have a think about. But yeah, I think that's it. The new world, the rebirth of genealogy is upon us. And we become less about searching for records and more about working out how to put them together. And we become sort of more Sherlock Holmes characters, where we're trying to tell a story with what's in here rather than just dig for the records like miners. So it's a different way of doing it. We need different skills. We're doing things in a different way, but there's still plenty more we can go through. So I've gone off on a tangent, and I apologize. I've gone on a rant about genealogy, which is common, but let's look at some of your questions of the week answers. So we have everything. Here we go. So Alan has found a lot more about her mother's Scottish family, but have a long way to go. They're hoping to identify her second great grandmother, who should be a Barr, but maybe a Blair. That sounds like an interesting one. That's one. Let's see what we've got here. Liz, thanks to the kind souls in County Durham, they found a wedding that neither her or her cousin could find. It was a RG wedding between a Church of England, second time's great grandmother and grandfather, who was Roman Catholic, both illiterate, so his name was wrongly recorded as Daly, not Davy, and never corrected. Church of England records all spelled correctly. Ditto the Roman Catholic records because they knew them. A tip for others there too: if you can't find a church record, it looks like a mixed marriage, check the RG, always provided it post dates the RG being, and then it loses. You tell us what the rest is. That was half a story. I'm excited to see the rest. I think it cuts out my comments at a certain point, so we're a little stuck. But look at that, another one for another success from these directories. Just found husband's great grandfather listed in the directory. Did know about his life there. His family still living there. That's good. That's an exciting one. And a good comment here from Chris as well. It's so helpful using the alternative records. So many of them will confirm many details for your family. I knew from a family member, Thomas Shelford was in Singapore and had most of the family history, confirmed and found a lot more myself. The Far East directory is released today, confirm family facts and some details given in other records, and then it can lead you to articles as well. So that looks like a really interesting link. So that's one to see. There we go. Daphne's saying she's interested in. We'll do that talk, how to tell a story. Well, that'll be one. Definitely have that. I see a comment from Nicole. I've made a connection to an in-law, to a cousin on my paternal nan's side. The lady had given me some information I didn't know, and a photo of my 3 times great grandmother. Wow. I didn't think I'd get to see what she looked like as she died in 1920. My side hadn't got any photos past my great grandparents, so I was really impressed, and you should be. Any of these great photographs are really worth holding on to, and they're special. They're precious, and wherever you can get them, you should definitely grab with both hands. And you never know which cousin might have them. So it's always worth getting in touch with all of these cousins and seeing what they have and sharing what you have to hope so. Oh, I see Sylvia's still in that collection, finding so much fabulous stuff in that collection, confirming his occupation when he first went to Japan. It's wonderful how these things are said every time someone puts a record up. Then we don't know who it might help or what might go on, but it's lovely to hear that some record like this or some new collection can help so many people find some great things. So definitely, I'm excited to see what you all will find in everything else that's coming as well. Emily found a living relative using the UK electoral registers. That's quite a good one to find. That's great. Those electoral registers are really good fun. They're good. Victoria would love a Huguenot session. I think we might let her work something out with that. I think that's fine. We'll put that on the list, and maybe we can get something going on there. And there we go. So there's some more here. So Andrew has reopened their Family History Society Research Centre. They get a whole day a week helping others. Well, that's a good one, Andrew. I hope you get some great breakthroughs you get to share with. That's a good one. Heather's grandmother always said she had 13 children. We could only count 7. Thanks for the tip, putting both parents in. We've managed to get it to 12. Well, that's brilliant. Extra 5 relatives to look through. So that's a really interesting one. And Daphne is saying, I know it's a bit late, but I hope I haven't missed the Myko versus Ellie Twitter thing. So I can see Ellie's crossed arms as we speak. And how do I even explain this that happened? Eleanor and I often converse on matters of family history and matters of history and other things. We decided, I thought it would be a lovely, happy thing to do to share our love of family history amongst the world by saying, hey, if anyone wants a history fact, an interesting history fact, then retweet my post, my tweet, and I'll send you one. And I asked Ellie, do you think this is a good idea? And she said, yeah, sounds great. What happened next, I don't think anyone could have predicted. And we're now up to 2,200 of these retweets, and I have done about 500 facts. And every night I finish work and I will sit back up and I will get back on to adding facts to everyone's tweets. So it is something that has now become a new full-time job. And I think I bespoke too soon. And that's the comment that said I was on Canadian radio the other week talking about it. I've been on 2 Canadian radio stations, CBC and Ched Radio from Edmonton. They seem quite excited by the story, and it's just not ending. And so I blame Ellie entirely for this. I think if she could have stopped this, and she has let this run. So I think this is one of those things that I'm going to be reminding her for many years the time that she made me do many facts. But it's been exciting. It's been fun. And I know some people here probably have had facts from me because I've seen some of your names. If you haven't yet, I'll get to you eventually, I promise. But yes, it's been an interesting way of learning more about the world. And it's an exciting thing because history is for everyone. History should always be for everyone. And it's really frustrating when you learn some history at school and it's not the history that you're interested in. It's just something dry and boring, and you just never really get that into it. But all you need is the right kind of fact or the right kind of bit of history that makes you think, and you get excited. And I'm talking to people who are already really into history, so it's not so much of a big thing for us. But for some people who have never thought of this, never really thought of history, anything outside of just something that's in dusty old books, hopefully this will spark some interest, and maybe some great new people will come and join us on our Friday sessions, and maybe some people might come and get into family history in the same way. So it's been fun. It's been a pleasure to do. It's just been incredibly strange and really hard to explain to anyone from the outside that's been watching this cavalcade of strange knowledgeable facts that have come through. And it's not something I really expected to happen, but that's one of those things that just we find ourselves in. Let's see what else we've got as we go through. So there we go. So I think that's fair. Sylvia has made a very good point that Ellie is naughty, so that's a good thing as well. And that's something that again is written. And see everyone saying that she has lit the blue touch paper. Yeah, that's right, she has. And there we go. Beth wonders if I enjoy these little challenges and strange facts. I always enjoy challenges and strange facts. I think that's one of those things that you can't really take out of someone. I think there's nothing better than enjoying something a little quirky or just something that might grab someone's interest. So I'm very happy to have learned so much myself while doing this. And I think there's a scandalous comment there. Diane thinks Ellie is the innocent person here, and that is, I think, as with family history, you have to use the genealogical proof standard. We have to look at everything and say, okay, what's the most reasonable thing that would have happened? Do we have evidence to prove it? And also, have we got enough evidence? Does everything corroborate the statement? And with the genealogical proof standard, I think it shows that Ellie did this, and it's all her fault. I'm joking. It's lovely. It's been fun, and yeah, perhaps it is my fault, but I still will enjoy raking other people over the coals just for fun. So there we go. It's great. Shirley learned all about the corn laws at school and still don't understand them. There's a lot of things like that when it comes to learning history at school that really they just can't get into your mind. And I have a problem with the Covenanters because there's the same thing happens with me. Every time I make a point in my life to go and sit and read about the Covenanters and learn about them, and I do, and I think, right, this time I've got it. I know exactly who they were, how it worked, everything else. Within a month, I'll need to remind myself because there's just something about them that they can't stick. It's really, very, very hard to stick that tiny little part of history. And I know all about the little battles and the different things, but who was on which side, everything, that is just a blind spot for me. And it's one of those things, I think everyone has them. So it's one of those things that will definitely be useful to go at this in a different way. And maybe something quirky might keep me there. And there we have. So, I see. Beth has said, it looks like Ellie has enough to meet the genealogy standard to prove she's the innocent party. Did I just admit that I started it? Yeah, well, no starting, just I built a bridge and Ellie pushed me along it. I think that's fair. It's a mutual thing. We all have caused this. But enough about that mess and more about family history and the cool things that you found, because you make much better uses of your time, and I'm really excited to share in those. So we've got something here. In the autumn, I visited sites connected to my ancestors. Yesterday, I joined a Facebook page connected to one of the churches I visited, and by the evening, someone contacted me with their tree to prove our connection. That's amazing. One of our combined ancestors was buried right in front of the door, Zilla Cashmore, and we both photographed the same grave. That is interesting. You'll have to tell us if you did it very sort of far apart from each other, and if the stone looks any different, because of course, as these stones will wear away and things, the earlier the photograph, the better. And so, sometimes getting a really early photograph can be good, even if you've gone there and you found the stone yourself too. What have we got here? Some more as well. Okay. Well, it looks like Daphne's got something to get started with on that Far East directory section. They found a relation that went to Japan and married a Japanese lady, but now they can't remember the name of the relative. Well, they're there forever, so don't worry. You can come back to it, and they may even become even more useful and a bigger collection later on. So don't worry about that, and hopefully maybe it will come back to you. But that's the great thing about all these things on Findmypast. Once they're up, they'll be there for you to search through, so don't worry too much. We've got some more things here. Victoria has enjoyed finding answers in newspapers and the various articles giving wonderful details which are not found elsewhere. Findmypast sessions are full of info and fun. It's so lovely to be able to connect with like-minded genealogists. And that's what's so cool about this. It's not about me. It's not about Ellie or anyone else or anything. It's about you. It's always about you. And it's great to see all of you talking to each other and sharing tips and hints and exciting things in the chat as we're going. So it's a really, really great thing. I'm literally just sat on the top of it. All of you guys are the ones doing all of the hard work and the action, the activity. I'm only jealous I can't sit and comment myself because I'm busy chatting with all of you. I've got another one there. Karen made contact with 2 DNA cousins, exchanged some info and photographs. I photocopied some photos and sent them to my mum. She'd never seen these pictures. She was amazed. I still have my brick wall for my granddad, forever hopeful for a breakthrough. Well, there's always new records appearing. There's going to be plenty more to come, so don't worry too much. Maybe next week is your turn. Let's see what we've got here. Something from Janine. Same as always, DNA says, I'm descended from a clan of Murphys in southwest County Cork near Glengarriff, who were known as Murphy Mahish. This goes back to the mid-18th century. Someone from this group fathered my 4 times great-grandfather in American colonies, but he and his sister were adopted by a German immigrant couple. Their identities at birth lost to history. Who were their parents? That is quite a conundrum. I think I remember we talked about this in the monthly Q&A, didn't we? So hopefully maybe there'll be more things to go over and look at there. What have we got here? Also, Liz is talking about those newspapers. 18th century South Yorkshire there. Might be able to break through a brick wall with my Allot miners. Well, if you have a lot of miners, then definitely take a look at our mining records on Findmypast as well. And they might also be able to help you. Mining is one of those ones where there aren't so many records, but if there's any accidents or anything like that, you will find them in that database. So it is of use. So definitely take a look at those too. What do we have here? We've got some more coming through. Beverly's also really grateful to the community. You have all helped me in my history journey. That's it. It's lovely to hear that as well. Anya's saying, I'll need to go to the Edinburgh Museum and look at the National Covenant. I love that museum. It's really good, but I've done that many times, and this is a problem. It just won't sink in. I've gone to Greyfriars. I've stood where all of the covenant was signed and everything else. I've even knocked on Bloody Mackenzie's tomb and stood by the Covenanters cemetery and all of those things that also bring it to life. But it's just a blind spot. So I think just if you ever hear that I'm doing a presentation on Covenanters, then maybe do other things. Maybe just there are better people to do it. So I'm not going to put myself forward for that anytime soon. But definitely, it's good to see that museum. That museum is full of great stuff. It's also got Dolly the sheep in there, which is quite good. And if it wants to make you feel old, it's going about it the right way. It's got iMacs and iPods and all the things in there. And those things in a museum make you feel very connected to your past in a different way. It makes you feel yes, I wonder what will be in there next. So let's see, Sue is the same with all the different factions in Irish history. That's it. I haven't really touched too much Irish history, so that's another thing that we'll similarly maybe go through that process. So it's all if there's a great way of learning things, and then definitely it's a good way of doing it. That people learn in different styles, have different techniques. Some people are good at reading things. Some people like to hear things. Some people like a mixture. Some people like something interactive. And really good teachers and really good museums will give you bits of everything, and so that everyone who learns in a certain way will get something, and they'll learn. The really hit and miss kind of places and teachers and museums, the ones that only have one, and when they I've gone wobbly. Maybe is it there? You're not missing out too much. Those places, you have to hope that you learn in the same way. The great ways that mix them all together, they're brilliant, and they're the ones to look for. So there are a number of great interactive museums and exhibits and things like that that will be very exciting, and I really recommend them. And the Scottish National Museum in Edinburgh is one of them, and it's full of great things. But also, interactive things are always my way. I think if there's any way I can do things that I can just get my hands on something and see what it was like or how it worked, and that's always me. So definitely that's one way. So maybe I just need to find an interactive way of getting close to the Covenanters. Oh, I see. Oh, there's another one as well. Edinburgh Museum is not the one I'm thinking of. That's the National Museum of Scotland. The Edinburgh Museum is down the Royal Mile, across the road from the People's Story. Well, I don't know that one, so I think that's one to go on the list. So maybe Ellie and I will have to go for a walk and maybe visit that. So that'll be quite good. I've seen the People's Story Museum, and we have talked a few times about maybe doing a walk around Greyfriars with all of you and bringing you with us and doing a little bit of a tour. So we'll have to look into that, because that might be great fun. And I think maybe we'll see if maybe Ellie is brave enough to knock on Bloody Mackenzie's tomb for herself while we all watch and see if the poltergeist will come and visit. So that will be a great test of bravery, and who knows what outcome might happen. And it might be the last we see of her as she is taken away by the spirits. And what better way to prove or disprove the existence than to have it all on Facebook, on Findmypast Fridays Live. You heard it here first. The time that the afterlife and the spirit world was proven, it was on Findmypast Fridays Live when we were running around the graveyard. So there's plenty of things that could happen. Or it might just be a fun time to look at some history and tell some stories. So one or the other, we don't know what might happen. Who knows? I see Beth has managed to break through on some family members and branches in Anglesey. They want to see if they can prove or disprove if a female indirect ancestor of hers died out in Japan or not. She died pre-World War I. Well, perhaps those new Far Eastern directories might be exactly what you need for that. So that's an interesting one. And a couple of people saying they quite like a tour. Roxanne would like one. There we go. Elaine wants one as well. That's a really, really good one. And we've got some, yes, I would say this was the volunteering of All Hallows Eve. I volunteered to knock on his grave first. Well, I don't mind. Let's do it. If that's what it takes, then fair enough. And then if anything does happen to me, then I want you to build a huge solid gold statue in my honor. Just nothing, something modest, maybe just 50, 60 foot tall, and just make it rotate to face the sun at all times. And Ellie has the schematics already. They've been planned, and we're going to put it on the top of the Findmypast office and make sure that everyone remembers the family history. So we've got some great questions of the week here. Sarah found a long lost granduncle in New Zealand, to delight of her brother and a cousin who'd also searched for him years ago. That's fantastic. That is great. Stamping and stitching. Would love to chip away at their brick walls. Finally find out more about two of their great grandmothers. That's a big one. Really, really interesting. It seems that you've all done quite a lot in this year, which is good, because I was slightly worried that with everyone very preoccupied with other things of this year, which is totally understandable, and I don't think anyone would judge you for doing that we might not have got too much done on our family trees. We might not have made any breakthroughs, but it seems like some of you really have gone far and done great stuff. So it's something to be proud of. When everything's going along, you've still managed to get a little bit further. So that's really exciting and really heartening. I've done a little bit myself, and I'm quite excited to be delving into more of my English ancestors, my Irish ancestors, my Welsh ancestors. Ellie and I have been digging through to see if we are related. We're not quite sure. We've got that connection that's in the right time and the right place. We haven't quite gotten there. And so that's something that I've been digging around with, and maybe next year will be when I can get to prove that. But there's still a few weeks left of 2021, doesn't it? It sounds scary when you say it like that, doesn't it? There are still a few weeks left. And so even if you haven't made a breakthrough this time, there's plenty of chance to still make one, and there are still new records coming. There are lots and lots. I think that's a good point that Ellie makes, that doing a walking tour right now in Edinburgh, as we look out the window and it is pitch black, so it might not be so good to show you everything. So perhaps if we wait, then maybe in the spring we'll have something really nicely planned out, and we'll enjoy having a session. We might even get to make it a little bit longer and do a little bit of a loop or something, or maybe pre-record. I'm not sure. We'll work out how to do it. But I think there's lots of history in somewhere like Edinburgh. We could do that. We could even do it in London as well. We could do some exciting things, and that would be great fun, I think. So There we go. I see a little debate is going out here. Linda's asking about rubbing Greyfriars Bobby's nose, but talking about my golden statue. And Anya said, "Don't rub Bobby's nose; it's not good luck." And there is that story that I give, and the same for the golden Myko. Yeah, that's true. That statue originally was facing his master's grave, so he's always overlooking his master, and the pub behind it, the I think it's called Greyfriars Bobby, if I'm right, rotated the statue, so they'd always be in the background of that statue when the photos are taken. And so when you do have a photo taken, if you do come to Edinburgh and you do take a look and you want a photo of that iconic statue with a wonderfully romantic Victorian story, then just try and angle your photo so that the pub isn't in the background, because that's my little way of getting back at them and say, well, tough. I've still got a photo of the statue and I haven't got you in it. Because I think the nice thing would be for Greyfriars Bobby to overlook his grave forever. And it's a shame that because of marketing, that's gone away. So we can try and get one back that way. A few people asking about a Christmas quiz. We'll get to that. Let's get that worked on. And we'll see if we can get that in, maybe not next week, but the week after. That sounds like a good idea. And Sue's saying a walk around the grass market would be good. And if we could find her 2 times great-grandparents' place of marriage at the same time, that would be fabulous. Well, no promises, but we'll see what we can do. We'll knock on a few doors and we'll see what's else there. There we go. Anya's saying it is the Greyfriars Bobby pub. It's actually quite a nice pub. Well, that's okay. Maybe it was a previous landlord that did it or something like that. But still, I'm quite a big thing when it comes to statues and when it comes to that kind of thing. If there was some kind of intent, like a romantic intent, then I like to keep that preserved. So I'm a little bit of a traditionalist when it comes to that. So that will be why. See, Denise would love to find out who fathered their grandfather on their mum's side. He took his mother's maiden name. He had 2 siblings, also illegitimate. DNA has not solved the brick wall as yet. I like that you said as yet, because that's the big thing. It's as yet. Never give up. All of these things, all of these brick walls or anything that people are thinking of, they're never insurmountable. Brick walls can come tumbling down. Sometimes, when it takes a raindrop over centuries can leave all kinds of marks on stone that's been built and supposed to last forever. So definitely, the more that we keep pushing at these walls, eventually they are going to come through and they are going to work through. So don't worry too much, and especially when there are new records appearing, those new records might be the missing link to open that door. They might be the key to unlock everything. So definitely don't ever give up on any of these things. So let's take a look at some more. Anyone else? We've got some time in the last 15 minutes to answer any other things that you're hoping to achieve before the year is out, or great things that you've already found. So I can see a few of these. Keith was briefly in touch with a relative of his dad. She told me we were related to William Wilberforce, but never heard from her again. And I know nothing about my dad's side of the family. He died back in 1983. That's an interesting one, Keith. That's one that maybe, hopefully, you could perhaps rejig that and then maybe send them another message or something like that. And I got my fingers crossed for you, just hoping that you'll get that extra bit of answer, because William Wilberforce would be an interesting one to find out more about. So that will be a really, really good one. Oh, we've got some more here. Some details here. Rachel has said, I'm wondering if anyone can shed any light on a missing part on a tithe map. I'm researching a particular house in Shardlow in Derbyshire. On the 1849 tithe map, Shardlow itself is there, and the Trent and Mersey Canal is there until just before Shardlow Wharf, where it disappears along with the wharf itself and the commercial and domestic buildings. The house I'm interested in is one of these cottages. The whole area for about a mile spread is gone. Then the map starts again. And I would assume that records can sometimes not survive. There's many reasons for that, and the fact that the records don't survive is a shame. But there are other things we can use to tell that story. So the National Library of Scotland has a great website full of maps, and maps for different eras and points in history. So I would take a look at that and maybe see if they have a map that's close enough to your time of your ancestors being there, and you might still get a bit more information about your ancestors, and you'll still get to see the area that they're from and the area that they're in using that bit of information. So definitely I would say that would be a really good starting point. There are other records and documents and things that you might be able to look at, perhaps at a at a local archive. They might have something similar. Tithe maps usually come with the tithe records, and so the tithe records themselves, although they don't cover the the image, the visual of seeing where everything is laid out, you'll still get details of the house and you'll still get details of other things. So if you think they're on there and you think just the map has gone, maybe see if the record itself is still there as well. So there are other things you could do. So hopefully, Rachel, that will give you a starting point, a leg up. And if those don't work, then come back to us on our monthly Q&A sessions, and maybe we might be able to help you too. I see a few. Oh, I see there. We've got Rachel said about a virtual tour of Greyfriars. Two of my great-great-great-great-grandfather's siblings were interred in Lord Bankton's tomb. Well, if you are there for that, then we'll make sure to pop around and we'll see it, and we'll give you a shout out. So there we go. Beth has said. One myth, as my maternal grandmother said, is her family had some blue blood connections. No proof that there's blue blood in my nan's family, or the family worked for someone who was blue blooded. It's strange how these stories can come and go, and sometimes there's truth, sometimes there's not. But you're in the right place when you're hanging around with family historians, and we're all working together to find these things. So definitely, certainly, you are doing well by digging into it, and you're doing the right thing by trying to find the proof and the truth behind the tale, because there's plenty of these different ways that things will be going on. Shirley has said, Shardlow's an interesting name. There's a house named that in Thriplow in Cambridgeshire. Many of these houses sometimes are named after the places that the people who made them are from, or they have a particular romantic connection to, an emotive connection. So I know Ellie has said about her own family that they lived in a house based on her Scottish ancestors, and that was a way that she could connect to her Scottish heritage, and didn't know that she had Scottish family, and found it later on with records and with proof. But then again, the house name was one of those interesting little drops in the right direction. So they are really useful. If you own a house and it has a name and it was named before your time, perhaps if you do a little bit of house history, you'll find out more about the people that were there before and the people that named it, and you might get some story, and that will be something to keep, wouldn't it? That's an interesting way of knowing more about your family and about the place that you live. Robin has said she finally managed to locate her great uncle's wife this year, which had been a brick wall for many years. That's great. Still hoping to find their marriage, which may have taken place in India, and I hope before the year's out to locate it. Well, we have a big collection of Indian marriages, a big set of those from the British India Office. And so definitely take a look at those. They come from the British Library. They're a big collection, and they're really, really, really good. So that would be one. We've got Anya said, did I know that Huntley House, home to the Museum of Edinburgh, and Bakehouse Close feature in season 3 of the popular TV series Outlander? Pay a visit today and walk in the steps of Jamie and Claire Fraser. Well, I haven't yet seen Outlander, and I know that Ellie will. I can see the mouth open. I know the story, and of course we have a good friend who is an actor in Outlander, and I've seen his scenes and things, and we've been talking relatively recently about that. But I have to sit down and watch it, so it's on my list. I have a lot of other television programs that are on the list to do, so we'll get there. And I know a lot of people are talking about Succession, which is another thing that's on at the moment, which our good friend Brian Cox is in, and that's one that I have to do as well. So it's all mounting up. It's all very, very much a thing. And then there's always a good history documentary as well. So there's plenty of those to look for. And the time never is your own, is it? So it's one of those things that there's always something else to do, and usually it's family history. So that's one. And there we've got some more questions here coming through. Janine has said, what is Greyfriars? Greyfriars is a cemetery in Edinburgh. It's one of the oldest cemeteries in Edinburgh, and it's also reputed to be the most haunted cemetery in the world. It is a place that is connected to Scottish history in so many ways. It's a place that Covenanters signed their covenant against the government, and there was a Covenanters cemetery there, Covenanters prison, where they were kept prisoner and slowly taken out one by one to be executed. So that's another part of the killing time in Scottish history. Also, it's full of the great, the good of Edinburgh. And Edinburgh is one of those places where, as it's very Calvinistic in its religious traditions, it does cemeteries in a way like very few other places. It has very, very ornate memento moris, those skulls and crossbones and ornate things about people's lives, and grim reapers and all kinds of things all over these things. And you'll see effigies of different people lying flat sleeping in their lair, which is a Scottish grave. And these things are just fascinating to look at and really interesting. And there are centuries of cemetery stones all the way through, going up to relatively recently. And so you can walk through and you can see a real part of Scottish history. And especially because a lot of these people in there were notable and did big things, you can tell the story of Scotland by going through there and seeing everything. So it's a really, really interesting place. And it's really worth looking at. And it's open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's completely free. If you're in Edinburgh anytime, you can go and you can just walk around and just admire some of those stones and just look at some of these names. And of course, yourselves as family historians, I'm sure you'll be very, very quick to start researching the names and finding out more. Because when you see some of those really big places and you see the stones that are 3 stories tall, that have pillars and statues and everything else, you really have to find out the rest of the story. It's an interesting one. So certainly it's a great place to go and visit. It's really, really interesting. I recommend it hugely, but it's always great to learn a bit more while we're there. So maybe we will try and get some stuff arranged in the new year. We've got some more little bits going through. I said Linda said as well, definitely worth a visit. It really, really is. And there's so many different places to visit as well in Edinburgh that we will run out of time before we run out of places. But I think it's one of those wonderful cities where the old and the new combine in such a wonderful way. You see the sandstone, you see everything else. It's a lovely time. And I look out of my window and there's not a single building that was built after 1820. And it's lovely to see a skyline like that. So it's always exciting. And so back to our question of the week. Good achievements here from Lloyd. Big achievements, including the first Zoom gatherings of the De Vere hunts connected by a rare haplogroup. So DNA for others, forming JZ39057 in the Levantine Jewish tree. Digging up into your probate records, which I don't yet understand some of the structures, and need some help as I move towards a coherent history. So I so wish to the day that more Norman Anglo-Irish come forward and test to make up for the J gaps. So a lot of DNA testing needed. One thing I can say when it comes to the probate records, watch this space. I'm recording a probate presentation as we speak for a conference that is coming soon that you might be able to then watch. So keep your eyes peeled, and then hopefully that might be able to help you. Bev confirmed her 3 times great-grandfather enlisted in 1806 in the 39th Foot in the Peninsular War, 1810 to 1813. He was discharged due to a gunshot wound in the right leg at San Sebastian. That's fantastic. Right in the thick of it there, Bev. A distant cousin sent me photos of his medal. It's amazing that medal still survives. That is something to be proud of, keeping that photograph. Really interesting. Sylvia's mentioned St Cuthbert's is another fascinating place to wander around Edinburgh. That's good as well. The Canongate Kirkyard as well is quite cool. I like that. There's David Rizzio there, who's one of my favourite characters of Scottish history, or supposedly there. No one's ever quite sure. So there's lots of little bits of extra stories. We've got a good tip there. Future Learn is a good website where you can learn a few different things. And they have a course on Scottish paleography. And I remember that. I've done that one. If it's early modern, if that's the one that you mean. Very difficult. Paleography can be difficult. And maybe that's another lesson that we have to do. We'll do a session on paleography because that could be really useful. And I studied paleography for my master's degree. But once you get the hang of it, once you get the habit, that can really help. So I think maybe there's something in that. So we'll work on that. Maybe that'll be in the new year. Once everything's calmed down with the 1921 census, we'll come back with some really exciting things there. So Donya's even got family buried in St Cuthbert Cemetery. That's a good one. There are lots of live things going on all the time at the moment. Next week, we've got some more 1921 census stuff. Mary McKee will be talking about the nation's reaction to the 1921 census, a bit of context before we get to the census itself. And then Paul Nixon will be looking at Christmas in the British Army. There are some exciting things that happened at Christmas in World War I that I'm sure we all know about, but there are also lots of other things to talk about and lots of other things that I'm sure will help you learn more about perhaps your British Army soldier ancestors. And then, of course, we have Fridays Live with Alex Cox on Friday. So you'll have myself, you'll have Alex, and it's always a pleasure to see him run through the week's great records. And I'm looking forward to next week's records as well. So fingers crossed that you will too. And of course, every week there's something new. So don't worry at all. If it's not your week, next week might be the one. There are so many things we could talk about and so many things we could keep going on about, but I know that we would take you away from family history and take you away from all the great things that you could be doing on a Friday evening. It's such a great time that I don't even notice that the time is going so quickly, but certainly there's so much to talk about. And I hope that I've seen some of you people having some great breakthroughs, and that is fantastic. It's wonderful. And it said it gives us energy to see that, especially when you've used new records that we've released, because it means it was worthwhile. And that's a great feeling. And we'll pass that on to all the people that are involved, because it's not just the people that go and find the records. It's people that work on the records that you'll never see, who will always be beavering away, making sure everything works and putting things together and arranging it and aligning it. And that they're all equally as important, and they mean a lot, and they work really, really hard on all these things. Even right now, they're beavering away at other things like the 1921 census and everything else to prepare everything, to get everything ready so that you can press a button and find your relative. So they all matter just as much as anyone else. And so I think it's a really important thing to let them know all the great things that you find, because being part of your discovery, you are the one that does the searching and finds the great stuff. But it's nice to know that we helped give you the tools. And so that's something that I love to pass along. So I'm definitely going to be doing that after this session, telling them about all the great things that you've all found in these directories. Hopefully, maybe you can find something else in some of our other new records next week and tell us as well. But things will continue. There'll be many more records to go. I see lots of people talking about St Cuthbert's as well. So it looks like maybe we have to look at St Cuthbert's at some point as well. Many different cemeteries in Edinburgh to look at, and many cemeteries in general that are always exciting for family historians. But outside of that, it has been lovely to hang around with you, and it's been great. And I always think that we're very blessed to have been invited into your homes during all of this. And we are visiting you in a way that we can't really outside of being able to do this kind of thing. So it's great that during the time when we might be staying indoors a lot more than we were a couple of weeks ago, that we still have ways we can gather, ways we can talk, and ways we can be social. And I really encourage you to not only look at your ancestors, your family tree, and work through there, and maybe try and get one of those revelations in before the end of the year, so we've got something to look back on, which will be a good thing. But also maybe check in with some of those living relatives as well, and see how they are in this strange and interesting time, because they might have some stories, they might know some things, and they might also be able to help you with the things that go further back. So do take some time to spend with them as well. And our family history is always going to be here, and it's always, of course, said if we can keep going and get something in, then we'll do a great thing, and we'll be working forwards all the time. So thanks very much for joining me, and Ellie as well. We always have a little bit of fun on a Friday, and I said it can go in all kinds of different directions, but it's always fun to spend it with you. And really happy that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. It looks like probably in a couple of weeks when we do a quiz, because I think the voices have spoken, and I'll have to get on writing those quiz questions. So fingers crossed that you come and join us for that. But then there are many other speakers and many other people in the meantime. So definitely check out those, and we look forward to talking to you very soon indeed. Thanks very much for joining us, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care, and best of luck. In bocca al lupo.